So hello and welcome to my channel, The Metal Triss. As I'm sure you can imagine, I am Triss and this is where I talk about metal. So if you're new to the channel, I do album reviews, interviews with bands and various other things. So in this 5-minute video, I will be discussing Venom Prison's brand new album, Erebos. So I'll be talking about what I find good about the album, what I find not so good about the album, what I find interesting, and then sum up all of my points at the end of the video. So I hope you enjoy this 5-minute video. Other than that, let's dive into Erebos. So the first thing that hit me when I was listening to this album is just how adventurous Venom Prison have gotten. I kind of felt like there was a bit of potential for that at the end of Samsara, their previous album, which was released in 2019, and was really kind of hoping that they would dig into that. And I'm so glad that they did. It keeps you interested literally from the moment that you start the record right up until the end. And with that in mind, we look at the songwriting. The songwriting on this record is excellent, really cohesive. It's really well pieced together, but also has enough differentiation to kind of keep you coming back to it over time. And where guitar is concerned, that I feel like that's always been something that Venom Prison have, had in the sort of background a little bit. But here it's really been pushed to the foreground, particularly where leads are concerned. There's a lot of kind of little licks and melodies here that kind of really do elevate, a track. And I feel like they may not have done that in the past, but for me, a personal highlight is definitely Veil of Night. That track is very much kind of, got that Black Dahlia Murder kind of vibe, that level of melody is what I'm talking about. But of course, Venom Prison are first and foremost made up of death metal and hardcore, and the two of them I think are very much present, particularly at the end of Judges from the Underworld and Gorgon Sisters, which has a real kind of like stomping breakdown, which kind of goes back to their initial kind of roots. But as much as I'm talking about experimentation and trying something different, there's still definitely a sense of death metal with this album. And, it does sound like Venom Prison. That's the most important thing, particularly on Nemesis, Comfort of Complicity, and Golden Apples of Hesperides, which I think I've spelled right. And now we're going to be looking at the kind of not so great aspects of the album. It wasn't necessarily a completely natural reaction to the album that I had, but over time it's really won me over, and I really enjoy the kind of level of experimentation but also the callbacks to original Venom Prison. Now we move on to the aspects that I find really interesting about this record. So what I find most interesting about this album is experimentation, and I think a great example of that that encompasses everything that you can hear on this record is on Pain of Oases. It's a track which goes kind of from post-rock beginnings with a bit of piano, some electronics thrown in, and then kind of tilts full force into death metal at the same time. But it's just the fact that they've been able to combine all of these elements really well, but also retain that signature Venom Prison sound. Feeling of guilt! Now, I have to say, special mention has to go to Larissa, because her vocal performance on this is absolutely fantastic. For one, her highs are really piercing and screeching, which I really liked. But also, she's doing clean vocals, which, is not exactly the easiest thing for any singer to do, I'm sure. But also to kind of like bare your soul that much, I think, particularly with some of the subject matter that Venom Prison often kind of tackle, must not be the easiest thing to do. So massive props to Larissa. I also thought her enunciation was even better. You can hear every single word and they hit even harder. And finally, we kind of bookend the album really nicely with Born from Chaos, the first track, and the final track, Technologies of Death. They both have this Boss, which is kind of quite memorable, but also are very, very cinematic. I also think that Technologies of Death could well be the best song that Venom Prison have written. Again, saving the best for last. Not to forget that there's also orchestral arrangements in here as well, which again adds to that sense of the cinematic and creates something of a bigger feeling, you know? Venom Prison have tackled creativity head-on with Erebos, and I think really this is just the tip of the iceberg of what this brilliant band have got to offer in the future. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this album review. Maybe you learned a little bit more about Venom Prison, Erebos. I'd love to hear either way in your comments underneath me. Let me know what you think. But other than that, thank you ever so much for checking the video out. It'd be great if you could like and subscribe. And then otherwise, I will see you very, very soon for another album review. Take care, my friends.